Working on the flex truck today. The core support's all cleaned up and done, ready to accept the new radiator, AC condenser, intercooler. Got a lot of the dents out of this piece. A lot of the nuts that were welded in had got stripped, or the bolts broke off of them. Got all those replaced that were bad. And as you saw, we were doing the inner fender wells. Well, I got now driver's and passenger side done. I went ahead and welded up the holes that were in it for accessories. They might have been in a location where I could use them, but I'd rather just drill that later. And so just make them clean, and then you have the choice of where you want to put stuff. The other thing that I have here that we took out of the other fender is our inner fender piece that doesn't come in the new fender that we still need to get in there, but I want to have this sandblasted before I put it on there, because I'm not planning on sandblasting that new fender. That one will probably just get scuffed, maybe primed, blocked, and painted. So I had all this stuff off ready to go to sandblast, and remembered I hadn't mounted the bumper yet. So step one, find where I put the bumper. Step two, figure out how to get it on here. On these bumpers, and into the 60s actually, early 60s, they looked like they're put on upside down, because there was a smaller section on the bottom and taller section on the top, which seems backwards. And on things like this, when you're doing stuff custom, put it on the other way if you feel like it. It would require that you tuck it in a little further, but you know, it's your truck. On this one, we're going for kind of a factory as possible look. We're going to be painting it a turquoise and white, probably. We want that factory look, so I'll keep that factory way about it. However, we need to see how far we need to take this in. I'm going to take these little brackets off the back here to kind of get an idea of how far in these bumper frames we need, bumper horns we need to take it. And I want to leave these hooks on here. I think that'll be kind of a nice touch. And so we'll have to tuck those out of the bumper somehow. And so we'll see how custom we got to get here. Maybe a little custom, maybe a lot of custom. There's always one. as you notice, as I was cutting that, I was just going a little bit at a time. You know, there's nothing wrong with creeping up on your cut. You also want to make sure that this is rolled right, you know, so it sits right, and there's also normally a pretty good gap between your body and the bumper. I originally thought that these horns were going to be coming through the bumper, but it doesn't appear that that's what's going to happen. It appears that they're going to be below. We'll get to that later. I might cut those off and not use them. But let's get our bumper mounted first. So I'm lining the bumper up to the frame, not the fenders and stuff, because that can slide side to side. I have adjustment there. On this, I'd like it to just be centered with the frame, and that way we can kind of start off square as we go down the vehicle. I've drawn these lines on the inside of the bumper with my Sharpie, and our original bumper brackets just aren't gonna quite fit to the outside of that frame. They're really close, but close is only good with horseshoes and hand grenades. So I think I'm gonna weld these onto the bumper and shave the holes from the bumper bolts. I'll just weld the bumper bolt holes into the bracket here, and then weld the bracket onto the inside a little more secure. Then the bumper will mount through the bracket, not the bumper. I'm sure that's going to have its own issues. So as for right now, let's just tack these on. We won't give them a real secure weld, just a little tack, and kind of see how that works out. So we've had a number of setbacks and redesigns. Something I didn't expect is we'd have to do a bracket off the top. So we made our bracket off the top. This is probably, I mean, it's not the frame for this truck, obviously. This is an 06 frame and a 56 cab, but the body lift that we have on this is kind of giving us that gap there. The body lift is pretty much out of necessity to fit everything on here, but that's kind of why we're ending up with this weird spacing here. I was able to use the factory 2 mounts here, and I centered out our core support, centered the brackets onto the frame, centered the brackets onto the bumper, and when I put it on, it was 2 inches to the passenger side. So I had to shuffle the brackets over. Why that's happening, I have no idea. But it's better not to ask it questions, just do what it says. Line the bumper up. The holes in the brackets, I just welded the nuts in just to make things easier. And that ended up making it to where the spacing was wrong on our brackets. So I had to hone those out a bit with the plasma. And since I welded the brackets on the brackets on the frame, they're a little too tight to be putting the bumper on and off. You can't be hammering the bumper on and getting it to fit now and calling it good, because after we paint the bumper, we can't be hammering on it. So I made some relief cuts in the bracket there, didn't cut it through all the way, hammered it out, welded it back up, and now it goes on very nicely, easily. So let's do another fit here and see if we got it. There we are. You can kind of see our alignment there, and that's kind of how it should be factory. It should be just in front of this little lip that kind of tucks under it. You could take it in a little bit further, especially if you're doing like a two-wheel drive truck. I would suggest I would move it in tighter. And if you're painting them white, I would also cut them to where they fit nicer. On a four-wheel drive, it doesn't matter as much because it's a truck bumper, you know? Who cares? I want to clean up my welds, and then I'd like to back it up and get a good view from farther away to see how these brackets look. I think I kind of screwed the pooch on this one. That is not where that goes. It's even, it's straight, it's mounted on there nice, but it's way too high. I'm going to take the bolts out of the brackets and see if I can move it down to the next bolt. Just see how it looks. I moved that top hole down to the bottom hole and bolted it back in. And that's too far down. That's just too low. So we need to bring it up a little bit. And there's a little thing blocking it on this side for this to roll up correctly. Somewhere in the middle there is where we're supposed to be. The sun's starting to go down on our little town as I finally get this bumper where it should be. I think that looks factory correct. I don't know if he's going to want to keep those hooks though. I think there's probably something we could do a little better looking than that. And I still don't have my mounts right. I got the bumper where I want it, but I need to do another bolt. You can kind of see my old nut mount up there. I need to do another one. Maybe tie it into the bottom of the frame there to make it really strong. Maybe do something with the tow hooks there as tying it in, or making some taller bumper. Not sure.
Black and dead, black and blue. The black of down and rocket issue American never issue. Black and dead, black and blue.